Oh, hi! This week, we're gonna hack up some overalls that I got and make them into actual shorts, and then also try styling them. Since these will probably get worn with a multitude of tops that I own, I kind of wanted to show off how I will probably work them. And also some experimental things that I may not do, but was still fun to try out. I've been wearing the same like 8 outfits, and half of those are work outfits for the brewery I work for the past year probably. I've just swapped out the jeans for shorts and then like the same 2 skirts I've been wearing. This was good to kind of break me out of that routine and also just like run my hands over all of my tops because I always grab the same couple hangers, and I actually went through the entire selection. I think I gotta do another closet overhaul because there's some stuff I need to like replicate or just fix a couple things here and there, and also just get rid of because I haven't been wearing it at all. So maybe it's time to do that update. It's also probably been longer since I've done my closet overhaul than I think it's been, and I never actually attacked the pants, so this is kind of technically part of that. And if you've been following along with my shorts quest, that has been nothing but struggles, but I do have 2 pairs that I would like to try to duplicate or like Frankenstein with the patterns that I've tried. Let me know if you're interested in watching any of that, because it's all gonna get done anyway. It's just this holds me more accountable and I'm much more likely to get it done sooner, but it's been a wildly helpful series on my end. I just don't know how y'all feel about it. Also, in case you were eyeballing this in the corner, yes, I have found maybe the best slash dumbest thing I've ever found at a beer store. It is technically a hard cider, and I do generally enjoy this brand's hard ciders, so I have no idea what to expect with this. Also, let me know if the like slush puppy, is that what they're called? The slushies that look like this with a little dog on it, if that's an everywhere thing or if this is a New England thing, because I have no idea. Anyway, just the gimmick got me. I do really like blue raspberry flavor, so if this had been any other slushy flavor, I don't think I would have looked twice at it. But here's what you need. Oh man. Oh man. This smells fucking wild. Yeah, I had to pour this into a glass. What the fuck? I'm confused as to how this happened. Like, it's not my favorite thing I've ever consumed, but I am genuinely shocked at how good this is. I did buy a 4-pack so that I could share with people, but I felt like the inaugural one would be fun to share on here. I don't know what to do with myself right now. Also, what do you eat when you're drinking this? On any given day, I'm pretty much constantly eating, but especially if I'm drinking cocktails or beer or whatever, like, I'm especially shoving food in my face the whole time, but I don't know what would pair with this other than the only flavor Laffy Taffy I ever purchased, which is the blue raspberry one. Back to the overalls. So I used to wear overalls a lot when I was a kid, and then once like middle school hit, I wore exclusively wind pants, and then the first chunk of high school I wore those zip-off cargo shorts from the boys section of Walmart. I often wore just the shorts and kept the zipped parts off so that there'd be a lot of like washing of the top part and a lot more sun damage done to them, so they'd be different shades. I would still put the bottoms on come wintertime. And then towards the end of high school, finally was like, oh yeah, jeans are a thing. It actually took some of my friends like daring me to wear some and going to a thrift store, buying some for me and making me put them on for me to be like, all right, fine, I'll wear jeans. And now that's like my default bottoms. I wouldn't even wear denim shorts. I basically had whatever the shorts version of wind pants were all the time. Wind pants of whatever variety, you know, black ones with a red and white stripe down the side and a tie-dye shirt. Robin's egg blue ones with a white stripe down the side with a tie-dye shirt, also usually with a bandana. I wore a bandana every day I wasn't in school for a number of years because I hated my hair. Anyway, I just haven't worn overalls in a long time. Definitely not in my adulthood, and probably not once I was actually a teenager, so it's been 20 years. And I don't know, I think I do get in my head sometimes when I'm out in the world, and I know some people perceive me as like more androgynous than I actually identify, which doesn't offend me at all, but I prefer not getting misgendered, so when I have something bulkier, especially over my chest, like a pair of overalls, I'm much more likely to get misgendered, and it's not like my favorite conversation to have. Worst of all is when someone's like, oh my god, well I thought because blah blah blah, and then they say a bunch of insulting stuff, which also happens when people assume my sexuality is not what it actually is, and then are like, oh, I'm so sorry I assumed that about you, I didn't mean it, as if it's the worst possible thing. It's fine, but those like follow-up interactions are the fucking worst. I just hate them. And especially as someone that's doing sales and stuff for the brewery. Like I work farmers market, I work brew fests. I'm public facing a lot in a couple of my jobs. So I'm much more aware of how I present. Where in my normal day to day, like I don't interact with many people. And if someone assumes something about me at the grocery store, I do not give a shit. But if it's someone I'm kind of stuck having a conversation with because I'm pouring them samples and talking to them about the beer and like trying to get them to buy some, or even with my own art fair stuff or when I work conventions, when I am trying to like win people over essentially. I mean, that sounds much more manipulative than I like to think of it, but I guess I'm trying to get people to buy things. So is that not manipulating them? What a surprise. We're in an overthinking spiral. Okay, I just don't love that most of the time, but I'm glad that I tried these overalls on because they're much more flattering than I expected them to be. And they even have like a little cinch thing around the waist. And I don't feel like I'm drowning in denim while also being so comfortable, and I'm not self-conscious about my tummy or anything in these. Hell, I was even on board with trying on one of the crop tops that I've made that I haven't touched since I made it because of how comfortable I feel in these things. They're just kind of a weird length, and I don't want there to be that much fabric. I would, however, love to just walk around all day with my hands shoved into these pockets. It's so comfortable. It's like when you have a hoodie that has the kangaroo pocket. It's like a reasonable big ass size and you're just hanging out somewhere and you can just like tuck both your hands across your belly and just chill. Like your hands don't have to be doing something. I also think part of why I like how these fit is because they have a nice long button placket up each side, although one of the buttons keeps popping off. So I think I'm gonna swap out for like hand sewn on buttons instead of this hardware. And honestly, that's probably why these got donated in the first place, is because that was popping off. But I have it safety pinned right now, and you know what? I have no problem wearing them as is. They're overalls. They're supposed to be like work clothes. Not like business casual work clothes, but like getting your hands dirty kind of work clothes. Although I wonder if there's a way to like dress these up. Let me know your thoughts, because I'm finally letting myself just kind of like try things out, experiment more with clothing and not just narrow myself into a tiny little box that I have to fit into that I have only put myself in. Anyway, as I said, it's just the length of the legs that I was like, definitely want these to be shorts, but I'm okay with them being on the longer side. So I figured out I want them to not be so short. Like most of my shorts are like short shorts. I don't know why, because they're such a prominent feature on my body, but I've never been self-conscious about my legs. So having most of them out for the world to see, I just never think about them, other than when I got called thunder thighs when I was a kid, while also getting made fun of for being as scrawny as I was, which everyone's the worst. Kids are just gonna find shit to make fun of other kids for. So like none of it matters. None of it matters. Anyways, I figured if I marked where my knees were while wearing the overalls and then cuffed it up twice, about an inch wide each, that wouldn't be so far up my leg, but would also give them room to breathe. I mean, these are also kind of wider legs, so it's not like there was zero airflow to start with. But them being not tight fitting around my thighs, I didn't want to have them be too short with all of the gapping there, because that's, for me at least, when my butt is in jeopardy of sneaking out into the sunshine. I tried them on and I marked where my knees were with a little chalk. You can do it with a sliver of soap. I mean, honestly, you can mark it with a Sharpie or something that isn't gonna wash away or rub off, because that edge is gonna get hidden away into the cuff anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Once I had that marked, I put the overalls back on my cutting table. Obviously, once I had taken them back off and swapped on my other shorts, because I'm not gonna cut them off while they're on me. This is not that really upsetting Tom Petty music video where Alice falls down the rabbit hole and turns into a cake that people are slicing up. I still have nightmares about that, and I'm sorry for mentioning it to y'all and maybe getting it in your head. I made sure I flattened the leg out nice and smooth. I did take a ruler, just anything with a straight edge, and then mark a full chalk line across the entire pant leg so that when I cut it, it was actually going to be straight. I just don't trust myself to eyeball that wide of a leg to do a straight seam across it, or I guess the opposite of a seam. Straight cut across it. We're detaching two pieces from each other, not attaching two pieces together. I honestly didn't even need to mark the chalk on the second leg, because this is how I always do this when I'm cutting up sleeves or pants. But yeah, once it was lined up, I very tediously flattened everything out, made sure it was super even, and then just cut across that same edge so that these were gonna be the same on both sides. So I made sure to try these on again, especially because when I first put these on and I was trying to cuff them like pretty high up, because the legs taper as they go down towards the calf. It didn't quite hit my ankle, but you know, probably like mid calf. That bottom cuff that was there couldn't get around my like upper leg meat. So I couldn't even really just fold it up a bunch of times to get it to sit there, because I couldn't get it up that high. So this was the true test if I hadn't fucked everything up by cutting them where I cut them. So yeah, I folded them over, you know, roughly an inch, folded it up twice. For a hot second when I first pulled them on, I thought I fucked them up and maybe cut it too short, but then once I got the cuffs rolled up, as you can tell by my penguin arms, I actually had cut it exactly where I wanted to, and this was looking precisely how I was hoping. Then, before I did anything else with the actual overalls, I took the scraps and tested out the iron on them because I wanted like nice crisp cuffs happening here. I tried cutting down some jeans into shorts over the weekend, like on my way to go do a thing, and then realized like, right, not pressing these and trying to have any kind of like cuff situation happening. That's not just folding it under twice and hemming it, like actually having a visible cuff. You can't not press it or it's gonna keep wanting to roll itself back out. But this isn't like actual denim, maybe some kind of hybrid with some denim. I'm not sure. I'm still not super knowledgeable about fabric types. I didn't do a burn test on this because I had scraps that I could test out with the iron. So once I realized I wasn't going to melt anything down with the setting I had, which was a blend, it seemed synthetic-y, so I didn't want to go all the way up to a cotton, where when you're working with actual denim, you can blast the shit out of that and nothing bad's gonna happen to it. Well, not nothing bad. I'm sure there's a way to cause damage to something going too whole hog, but I don't know how hot something would have to be to get denim to melt. Anyway, yeah, did a little press test. Who is she? The cuff I eyeballed when I folded it up when I tried it on a minute ago was a little bit more than an inch, like maybe not quite an inch and a quarter, which was perfect because these longer clips that I have, the furthest point you can use them to clip onto something while lining up the edge of the plastic with the edge of your fabric is a little bit more than an inch, but not quite an inch and a quarter. So I took my time lining this up and I just did the first fold first. I know it was probably a waste of time to some folks, but I didn't want to mess this up. So I just took my time with it. It's okay to not rush through every fucking thing you make. This was fairly enjoyable. It took me most of the day to do this, even though on a better day, this could have been like half an hour, maybe 45 minutes of work because I did do some hand sewing. But when I think of the type of day I'm having, I have green light days where I can kind of go turbo mode, get all the shit done, not get super frustrated at every fucking thing that happens. Then I have my red light days where it's like I'm deep in the hole. I can't really do much of anything and I usually tap out of those days pretty early if I'm able to and just let myself rest because otherwise it's like running into a wall all day and it's exhausting. Where yellow light days, it's like a split between where everything's a much bigger struggle to get done, but I don't feel so bad like I do on red light days to actually tap out. And thankfully, now that I'm medicated, I do have way less yellow light days. But I think because I've been overworking myself and also over peopling myself, I still haven't rested since last week where I completely burnt myself out. I'm still basically burnt out at the moment. I haven't had any recoup time. I would like to chill. I can tell I'm getting really irritated about like the dumbest little things that do not matter. And since starting my medication, I can totally let go and like I don't even think about them, but everything is agitating me today. And I know, at least I'm aware now and I don't get sucked into it where it's like you've just overexerted yourself. It's okay. So I let myself take my time with this. I didn't give myself super strict time structures and like, you have to have this part done by this time in the day. If I couldn't focus for a few minutes / maybe up to like 45 minutes, I just let myself dick around. I ended up organizing my box that has like all of my old notebooks, all of my old planners, all of my how to draw books from when I was a wee child. This was so wildly unimportant, but I got excited finding them. So I was like, I'm just gonna dig around in here a bit. I do think I may relax tonight by doing some of these doodles. Was I talking about ironing? I think I put the clips on, measured out everything nice and evenly, and then just started pressing stuff down. I did the first fold first, and then took my time making sure that the taper effect wasn't like causing any creases or wrinkling. I stretched out parts that I needed to stretch, but not so much anything got distorted. I just like took my time with it. And then I watch a YouTube video here and there while I was doing that, or listen to a podcast, or just take a break and fuck around on TikTok for a while. Like, I was very easy on myself as far as like constantly having to take breaks. So this is why I get frustrated with yellow light days, is because like this is all I got done in the whole day and I didn't rest, where like it's a mix of the two. So I'm much more open to giving myself windows to chill out and do the thing that I'm distracted by, rather than just beating myself up the whole time, yet still spending 20 minutes doing it, because that is also exhausting and only makes it harder for the next day to be a green light day. Oh, also, the long clips are great for measuring stuff out, but they're not as strong as the short clips for some reason. They just like don't stay in place as well and aren't as like they don't have as strong of a jaw. So I did add some interstitial mini clips around just to make sure everything was holding in place, because the long ones like wanted to shift around a little bit more. Then yeah, pressed from the inside, worked my way around the second loop once I had folded it up again. Also, I did watch a very, very cool in-depth video about pressing on Bernadette Banner's channel. If you don't follow her, I'm not telling you that you have to go do it, but it was a very interesting thing. And I did know some of the techniques, but I didn't know about cloth brushes. If you get like iron shine on certain fabrics, especially like a wool or something, cloth brush will help with that stuff. And I thought it was very cool. Also, watching someone actually using a clapper. It has seemed frivolous before today, but having someone actually explain it and like do full-on demonstrations for multiple uses, so helpful. And now I want to like whittle my own tailor's anvil and stuff. So it was a very cool video. I will link it below. Anyway, once I was to this point, I debated sewing the whole thing down. It would have involved stretching as I went, just because these are tapered legs. There are plenty of situations where the leg width is more straight. Like if you have boot cut jeans or something like that, even some skinny jeans, it depends on what part of the leg you're at, but like some parts are straight and some parts go teeny, teeny, tiny. And yes, because I'm a millennial, I fucking love wearing skinny jeans and I will not ever stop. But I really had it in my head, I wanted just cuffs. I didn't want there to be a stitching line here, and I have thrifted a couple pairs of shorts that have cute wide cuffs. I'm actually wearing some right now, and you can see there's a couple visible tack spots where they like did a whole bar tack on the machine, which is also totally fine. Oh, and I forgot about my blue slushie, which is not so cold it's giving me a brain freeze, but I'm also a very slow drinker. Anyway, I decided to do a couple tacks. I don't mind the little bar tack in the front of the shorts I currently have on, but I wanted to see if I could do some like blind stitches. I picked a couple spots, side seams, one in the center, two in the back. You know, I pulled the cuff back a bit, I inserted the needle, and then did a little handful of stitches, maybe 2 or 3 each side, on the inside of the cuff to the part of the shorts that the cuffs were covering, so that you weren't going to see any of this from the outside. And once I did those couple of stitches, I pushed the needle through to the inside of the shorts, pulled it tight. I did short stitches too. These weren't like long basting stitches or anything. They were just like little, maybe 1/8 of an inch wide at most. Then I made a loop on the back, pulled the needle through that, tightened all that down, and then I did a couple of French knots. When I was an apprentice at a costume shop, I learned how to tie knots off like this, where you just kind of wrap the thread around the needle a few times and then pull it through, and then that knot that builds up, when you pull it tight, don't try to break the threads, but you do need to pull it taut. That knot is going to get pulled like under the fabric, so it's not going to be visible from the outside and not hanging out anywhere, and it just sinks it, and then you can cut the end of the threads. And okay, I don't know if anybody else used to do this. I don't know if I saw someone do this or my brain just like couldn't figure out another possible way. But when I used to hand sew stuff, and this is where that like, oh, right, I do have a learning disability comes into play, because this would never fucking have occurred to me otherwise, where when I ended a row of hand sewing, rather than, you know, needle in hand, pulling something out, rather than cutting it off down here, so that you still have all your threads intact. Also, I doubled up on my threads in here, so there's 4 strands at a time, just makes it a little durable. You could also use thicker thread. You do you. But yeah, once you tie a knot off, you can cut the end closest to the knot of where you stopped your stitching, and then before you start another chunk of stitching, you just tie a new knot at the end, and then you can start your next thing. The way I used to do it is I would cut it where the needle is, and then take, you know, whatever the strands were, do a bunch of square knots, like tie them down a bunch of times, and then have to rethread it every time I stopped and started. And that's just how I always did it. I didn't know any better. I'm sure there are videos of me on here pre-2018 doing that shit. Not that it's like bad for the garment or something, but that's just making so much extra fucking work for myself for no reason. I just didn't think of it the other way. It's just the workaround that I had figured out on my own and what made sense at the time. And you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, apparently. I was treated very unkindly about that happening, rather than in like a helpful, let's go over a way to make this easier for yourself and like faster. It was kind of a, hey, look at this dumbass over here and how she thinks you're supposed to sew stuff. Like that kind of tone. Not as helpful in a learning environment or any environment. So, ooh, I never bring up that side of things there, and I can tell that this is kicking into my head. Once I did those little hand tacks around and I was happy with how it was staying up, pressing those folds in was definitely the biggest game changer for this. And like I said, I did that to another pair of shorts that I did a couple tacks on, and like, I don't have to do any more sewing to either of these things. They're both exquisite now. Exactly how I was hoping they were gonna look. Ironing is so helpful. So yeah, it was time for the final try on, and they're hitting at the exact perfect height. The cuffs are not trying to unroll on themselves. I am really, really delighted with the time I put into this and how it came out. Like, I'm gonna wear the hell out of these now. And as promised, after I went outside and just, you know, tried these on with the tank top I had been wearing when I started the day, the next top I tried on was a crop top I made for my Rocket Man outfit. However long ago was that? That was pre-pandemic. That had to have been 2019 at the latest. Oh, a lifetime ago. I don't know that I've been to a movie theater much since that came out, actually. So thank goodness I went to see it 3 different times. It was fun putting it back on. I mean, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but I did attach all these heat transfer vinyl stars, and I forgot how fun it looks, and it really brought me back to how much joy that movie brought me. So if nothing else, it was fun going back to that headspace, because it's been a while. I have been listening to the soundtrack again the past couple weeks. I haven't actually like thought about the movie experience in a while, so yeah, that was nice. I will say I don't mind having a crop top on with the overall bib in front. I'm not self-conscious about like my sides. I do have some scarring from a time I fell when I was a kid, but like I don't care about it. Once in a while, if I've had like a 2-piece bathing suit or something on, someone has seen it and been like, did you get shot? But no, I forgot that there weren't brakes on the roller skates I was wearing, and I went to loop around a basketball hoop pole where there was gigantic fucking bolts sticking out of it, and I went to use the brake at the back, forgot that it was not there, and I just like fell completely backwards, and just my side meat scraped down the side of the pole, and the bolt took a chunk out of me. So sorry for that description, but I do have that scar, and people have questioned it before. So that's the only thing that like came to mind when I had this on, but like bib covers my tummy and my chest hole, so I don't have to think about either of those things, because yes, there's a design on the shirt, but it's kind of like a repeating scattered thing and not like a graphic tee. The part I'm proudest of like still looks cool. The whole thing isn't getting covered up, just like bits of it. So I'm glad I tried that on. I may make myself another crop top that fits better than that to wear with my overalls. I think that would be fun. I had considered wearing one of my bandeau tops, but those never stay up. I don't know why I still have them, to be honest. Even though they get that like gummy strip at the top, I never enjoy wearing them, so I didn't even bother trying it on with this. But someone somewhere probably looks really cute with overalls and a bandeau bra. It did occur to me that overalls and a pink shirt, a pinkish purple, it depends on the lighting, sure does look like a Rose Tyler outfit from Doctor Who. Or I should have paired some black tights with it. That maybe that'll be an outfit I wear down the road. But it was fun kind of coming up with a casual cosplay out of this item, because that doesn't always happen, but it's always fun when it does. Oh, and I did try the whole one shoulder overall thing that I've been seeing a lot, and I don't mind how it looks in the front, especially because like the V-neck shirt has a little pocket here. So having the flap come down, like that's a little more visible, and I don't mind that look. I don't feel like it's gonna fall off of me or anything. Problem is, what do you do with the back strap? Because there's a giant chunk of hardware just like hanging free. I don't want to accidentally sit on it, and if I'm moving around or turning too quickly, I'm hitting myself with it. I don't think I could handle that, so I'm okay with just having both straps up. If there's a different thing you're supposed to do with that back strap, you let me know, but I couldn't think of anything that seemed reasonable, because I don't want to tuck it like down to my butt. That seems worse. Ooh, and then just to try it out, I did put on a long sleeve t-shirt, which I regretted because it was super hot. Also why I didn't wear the tights with the Rose Tyler outfit, because it was too fucking hot out, and I just didn't want to have to wash something because I had sweated through it after wearing it for 4 minutes. But I do like how the long sleeve looks underneath the overalls. And again, it's a striped shirt. It's more of a like repeating pattern situation. Probably would wear this on like cooler days with some leggings underneath the overalls once it's like back to early spring, or once we're into later fall. I think it would be fun. I felt cute in these, and that was really nice. And I think those are all the notes I have. Good grief. And thank you all for bearing with me and hanging out while I get a little buzzed off of a blue slushy hard cider. And as always, a massively huge thank you to everyone over on Patreon for letting me take time to do this, not feel like I'm destroying myself doing work in here. Like, yes, I had a not so fresh feeling kind of day, but it was still pleasant enough. This felt like a bit of a respite from all the other stuff I'm doing. So because of y'all, I get to do this. And also, to be blunt, how I can afford to purchase myself some secondhand overalls and pants that I can cut up and share the process with y'all. And even if you're not part of the Patreon, I so appreciate your company, and I will see you back here with another video next Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out. Oh boy, I cannot chug things. Why did I think I could party? I can't party. Have you met me? But that's when it was like, ooh, I just cracked my elbow so hard.